Let's us be the wiser human being on earth ever.
For me, Chio Bibia, we a quick come up and made a bro. Now, it's simply a trim drink a cry, and I'm a pese, become one sem. Now, you say, a brophony say, ye near ma on my baby. A call Mumu Kumuno. Almost sign Eddie Ba, ever be bread, a Santi Kingdom, a Santi Hene, 248 to 12 review. Kotokohene esi de brew biom na ye de ba no share da ho ne se omo de ba on loan na se me nti ase me nti ase me ase kra se wa ba be wia me die na usan o de bre me biom a usan se wo de ade ni e de ma me loan na je se e chire no usan ba be di biom a na se de Santihine, Besrew, Nananime. I may catch you say, and Bofuno, again, Omode Ban, Shena Omode Ban, or so she say, a bay of Pujane, Uncle Fa, Bibi, ye, and Fambre, Wacunyano. Abofuno, almost to me, a you so much to be the yen, maybe actually, it will be who. What is it? Una baby cry. See, next row say, Zambase omode, ye good, ye niama good, ye memories niama, it was a Santiapunya no one. I'll be we are corners almost at the Ebau, at the Bawapunya in Yuma. And yen she say, and yes, a loon be almost side the Ebray, night, you don't want some by Fakwa, and I say, Bisa, Omode bar, I was saying, she says, share me, you be got Premua. Omode bano be jepa na ye be bi ni asem kakra me de e ka afa ho no na wo de me se bre no e BBC for e news omode be to dwa according to one no omo say documentary omo ye no mo kire say omo British for no good any niama ikaka ho a omo be fa de ko no omo san e de bre ye biom omo san de bre Ashanti Kingdom almost at the babium. With the my video no na also found comment wa jin chire fa asem we ho no emfa to comment section ho no na share ma bibia no so na onti ne e koso yinti na ho ma obi mfa yes ye si kan fa adwa na kan ma ye for say to baby na ne me na make kasa si for na si fam asem we die ye asema emu edu papa say ye hwe na ye fa ye ni na ho na ye fa ye na si fam na ba ko ni omu ye bibia o udi ma hwe video no ye ba ye beto aso.
Now, it's been more than a century since treasures were looted by British soldiers from Ghana. Many of them hold huge cultural and spiritual significance. Now, in a landmark agreement, the Victoria and Albert and British Museums in London are returning them on loan to the Ashanti King. Our culture editor Katie Razzle has this exclusive report.
There is anger. People look at it in colonial terms. Looting of items, precious items belonging to people, are things that they don't easily forget.
Gold from the royal court of the Ashanti Kingdom, which was once one of Africa's most powerful states. These objects and many more were looted by British troops in the Ashanti capital Kumasi in 1874 during the Third Anglo-Ashanti War. Sold at auction then, now they're going back to Ghana for the first time in 150 years, to Kumasi's Mencha Palace Museum in a landmark loan deal with the Victoria and Albert and the British Museum.
They enter the South Kensington Museum and they're put on display, and they're displayed both as a work of incredible West African goldsmithery, but also as a sort of, sign of British imperial and colonial power.
17 V&A items are returning, including a peace pipe used by Ashanti kings, the Asantehene, and heavy cast gold badges worn by courtiers tasked with cleansing the king's soul. The agreement is not with the Ghanaian government, but with Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, the current Asantehene, who once worked for Brent Council, monarch for a people whose history is steeped in gold and wealth. The deal's chief negotiator is Ivor Ajimandia.
There's so much interest in these items. These were objects that were created by the royal artisans for all sorts of ceremonial reasons.
Is the fact that you're taking them on loan a problem?
It's not really a problem. At least these objects will be home.
The British Museum is also loaning 15 gold items, including a sword of state looted by British troops during the Anglo-Ashanti War of 1895-6. British law bans some national institutions, including the British Museum and the V&A, from permanently returning objects.
In giving a piece back, you're also giving back a missing piece of history.
Nana Ofriata Ayim is a special advisor to Ghana's culture minister. She welcomes the loan deals with the Ashanti king. The Ghanaian government could not have agreed to the terms.
The metaphor is, someone comes into your home and steals something from your house, keeps it in their house, and then, X amount of years later comes and says, I'm going to lend you your thing back. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And so in that way, I think it's going to be deeply problematic for a lot of people. But because I've been working, with it, I know the kind of politics that surrounds it and also the kind of attachment to the idea of empire.
Those objects with origins in war, in looting, in military campaigns, we have a responsibility to the country's origins to think about how we can share those more fairly today. And it doesn't seem to me that all of our museums will fall down if we build up these kind of partnerships and exchanges.
Have you felt ashamed that these items are here?
I don't feel ashamed they're here. I feel they're part of a history of British-Ghanaian interactions, some of which is around war, some of which is around slavery, some of which is an incredible creative Ghanaian diaspora in the UK today.
The V&A insists this is not restitution by the back door. A loan is not a model the Nigerians would accept for the return of the Benin bronzes, nor the Greeks over the Parthenon sculptures. But with British law as it stands, for the Asantehene, this deal is the best way to bring the gold home for now. Katie Razzle, BBC News.
Nana Oforiata Ayim is a special advisor to Ghana's Minister of Culture. You saw her in that report there. Well, I also spoke to her and asked her about the significance of the return of these artefacts.
It's a first step, I'd say. The law here in the UK prohibits items from going back permanently, but as we know, the law has been changed before for the Holocaust items. And so I think it's a step in the right direction. Obviously, a lot of people are not going to be happy with the idea of a loan going back to a country that really should have ownership of its own items, but it's a first step.
This wasn't an agreement with the country, was it, with the government? This is with the Asante king. Just explain why and what's the significance of that?
I think a proposal was made to the Ghanaian government, but it was a little bit problematic because the country can't really accept a loan back or can't be seen to accept a loan back, whereas with the kingdom, I think it was a simpler process. The agreement came from, one agreement came from the V&A, went to the Attorney General's office and it was rejected because there were so many stipulations on how the items should be received back, for example. Whereas I think, Ghana has enough sovereignty to know how to look after its own items.
And these are Asante treasures, aren't they? Tell us a bit more about them.
So there's various items. There's a soul disc, for example, which the Asantehene would have worn as a protector of his soul. There's various headpieces, there's a gold pipe, and a lot of these items are imbued with spiritual significance. And so they're not just, as Western museums might describe them, objects, but they are sometimes even, you might call them subjects, because they are imbued with immanence, with spiritual significance.
Is there a negotiation that could be reached here, a compromise, do you think, whereby the government would accept anything other than the full return of these items?
I mean, I know that in the language of, for example, the V&A, they were calling a renewable cultural partnership. I think, like I said, I think this is a first step, and I think